So, wherever you are in the world, you probably remember walking into school one day and seeing the teacher writing an equation on the board, y equals mx plus b. Now, at the time, you probably had zero idea what was going on.
What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
Unless you were gifted. Nerd. Now, what the teacher was trying to get you to do was solve for x. They already gave you the numbers for y, m, and b, but your job was to actually solve for x yourself. Trading is exactly like that, and that's why I call this video Solving for X. Now, the Federal Reserve, they have a dual mandate. What does that mean? They look at two big things. They're looking at stability in prices, and they're also looking at stability in the job market. Every single Fed meeting, you're gonna hear Papa Powell saying the exact same things, that they have a dual mandate to look at those two objects. But here's the thing, it's not always 50-50. The Fed doesn't weigh both equally all the time. If inflation is raging, price stability is the #1 priority. This is for inflationary environments where inflation has been a persistent issue. Throwing it back to the COVID years, inflation was a huge issue that still persists to this day. Now in the other case, if inflation is falling but the job market is tanking, that's when jobs becomes the #1 priority. This is all due to recessionary fears. Think of it like a pendulum swinging back and forth between inflation and jobs. The Fed focuses more on whichever side is screaming louder. For all you beautiful Forexfundys members who've been following every module in order, we've covered everything from inflation, unemployment, growth, and vibes. But the big Thanos of market moves comes down to one thing: interest rates. Interest rates are the Fed's #1 tool. It is their infinity gauntlet. Back in our inflation module, we called them the fire hose. But in this module, we're gonna shake things up a bit and we're gonna call them the brakes. You see, when the economy is overheating, we're getting strong GDP numbers, record spending. Prices start to rise faster than Buddy the Elf's blood pressure when chugging a 2-liter bottle of Coke. And what does the Fed do? They have to pump the brakes. Raising rates makes borrowing harder, it slows down businesses' spending, and it cools off demand. Ironically for us traders, it often boosts currency even more, because higher rates attract global money. Think of it like choosing your first bank account. You want the bank that gives you the best rate on your savings. Now, when the cycle flips, jobs slow down, GDP shrinks, retail sales collapses, and the Fed eases off. They step off of the brakes and then they start tapping the gas again with rate cuts. This is done to keep the economy moving.
I like to move it, move it.
That's the rhythm of the economy. Gas, growth, inflation, brakes, slow down, gas again. Now, this is where all the puzzle pieces should come together. In previous modules, I've always mentioned that these data points being higher or lower than expected can increase or decrease the likelihood of a Fed interest rate hike or cut. Everything depends on the economic conditions at the time. If GDP, jobs, and spending are balanced, the Fed's just chilling. There's no need for panic, but when things start tipping too far in one direction, that's when the snap happens. Every central bank plays the same game. It's just different players with the same goal. Control the cost of money and control the flow of the economy. Like any job you've ever had, there's times where you're just chilling. But there's also times where you're given the chance to make some tough decisions. For the Fed, we call it the Fed's dilemma. We've talked about the dual mandate, and here's the worst case scenario. As of October 2025, we're actually going through this kerfuffle to this day. Job growth is collapsing, unemployment is rising, but inflation is still climbing. The Fed literally has to pick its poison. Do they cut rates to save jobs, but risk fueling inflation? Or do they stick to fighting inflation and then risking mass layoffs in a recession? This is a nightmare scenario. This is why markets freak out when they both flash red at the same time. Now you'll often hear about traders talking about the Fed being hawkish or dovish. When traders say that the Fed is hawkish, it means that Powell is signaling a strong US dollar, rate hikes, and a tighter policy.
Tight like a tiger.
And as for dovish, that's easing, that's cutting rates, that's a weaker US dollar. And this is why press conferences matter. Traders, they hang on to every single word. They try to look for clues to get an edge. They're trying to solve for X. There's a little bit of a surprise factor as well.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's not just about if there's going to be a rate cut, but how much of a rate cut as well. In this example, the Kiwi dollar was expecting a rate cut of 25 basis points. However, the central bank decided to actually cut by 50 basis points, which indicated to people that maybe they were not doing as well as possible. And you can see in turn, the currency tanked harder than Drizzy's latest album review. So to wrap it up, traders use every single piece of economic data that we've talked about, inflation, unemployment, vibes, economic growth, to try solving Forex. And this is why you'll hear commentators say the move is already priced in, because the market has already done the math. They've solved for X and they've positioned themselves. The move, it usually happens before a rate hike or cut is even announced. And that's it. For everyone in Forexfundys, you just completed everything in Economics 101 Module 1. You now understand supply, demand, inflation, unemployment, consumer sentiment, aka vibes, economic growth, and how they all connect back to the puppet masters of Forex, the central bank, and their interest rates. In Module 2, we're going to take things up a notch. Geopolitics, safe havens, the Fed versus the Orange Man, risk on, risk off, and all the wild cards that throw all the equations off completely. See you in the next module, Forex Fund diehards. Thank you for watching, and remember, we put the fun in fundamentals.